She want to be a traditional wife. So, I demanded that if you want to be a traditional wife she must always look her best, wait on me, and provide sex without question when asked. The morning sun peeked through the blinds, casting a soft glow over the quiet bedroom. A gentle hum of a distant lawnmower drifted in, hinting at the promise of a warm summer day. Mark, his eyes still adjusting to the light, rolled over to face his wife, Rachel. She lay there, her breath shallow and even, lost in a world of dreams. He watched her for a moment, feeling a twinge of sadness for the woman he thought he knew. Their journey together had been a pattern of love and ambition, a dance of two souls intertwining as they built a life. Now, that tapestry felt as if it were unraveling at the seams, each thread pulling tauter with every passing day. Rachel had always been driven, her career in the NHS a testament to her dedication and intelligence. But lately, something had changed. She spoke of a newfound desire to embrace a lifestyle that seemed more suited to a bygone era. The house they'd bought was indeed large, a sprawling estate that whispered of grandiose dreams and endless possibilities. Yet, it had become a prison of expectations, its walls echoing with the silence of unspoken resentments. Rachel's insistence on maintaining her luxuries without contributing to the workload was wearing on Mark. The cracks in their relationship grew wider with each new demand, each new purchase that seemed to push them further apart. Summary to the power of one: Mark woke up next to Rachel, feeling a sadness for the changes in their relationship. Rachel's desire to adopt a traditional wife lifestyle was affecting their dynamic, especially with her expectations to retain their luxuries without working. The large house they'd bought had become a symbol of their growing divide. Her latest proclamation had come the night before. "I don't want to work anymore," Rachel had said, her eyes gleaming with a determination Mark hadn't seen in years. "I want to be a traditional wife." The words hung in the air, thick with implications and unspoken rules that Mark wasn't sure he could stomach. He loved Rachel, but the path she was choosing was one he wasn't ready to walk down. He felt a chill run down his spine, wondering if this was the beginning of the end, or just another chapter in their ever-evolving love story. The following morning, Rachel awoke to find Mark already dressed and brewing coffee in the kitchen. The smell of freshly ground beans filled the air, a comforting aroma that seemed out of place amidst the tension. She padded in, wearing the oversized t-shirt that used to be his, her eyes searching his face for any sign of what was to come. Mark glanced up, his expression unreadable as he handed her a steaming mug. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice measured. Rachel felt a knot form in her stomach as she took a tentative sip, the warmth of the liquid doing little to dispel the coldness that had settled within her. "If you're serious about this, about not working, I need to know you're going to pull your weight around here." He paused, looking at her intently. "You're going to have to start acting like a traditional wife in every sense of the word." Summary to the power of one: Rachel decided she no longer wanted to work, which created tension in their relationship. Mark, unsure about this new direction, agreed to her being a traditional wife but stated she must fulfill all the duties associated with it, including handling the housework and supporting him. Rachel felt anxious as she faced this potential change in their roles. Rachel's eyes narrowed, the words from the night before coming back to her. She had been so caught up in the fantasy, she hadn't considered the reality of what it would mean for them both. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice wavering slightly. Mark took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. "If you're going to stay home, you need to start taking care of things like you say these other wives do in your videos. Breakfast, dinner, a clean house, all that." He ticked off the items on his fingers. "And if you're going to expect that kind of service from me, then I expect the same in return. You want to play housewife? Fine. But it's not just about looking the part, Rachel." The kitchen was silent except for the tick of the clock on the wall and the occasional sizzle of the frying pan. Rachel felt the weight of his words settle on her shoulders, heavier than any burden she had ever carried in her corporate career. For a moment, she considered arguing, but something in Mark's tone told her this wasn't a negotiation. It was an ultimatum, one she wasn't quite ready to face. With a nod, Rachel took a deep breath. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try." Summary to the power of one: Mark laid out his conditions for Rachel's transition to a traditional wife role, which included her taking full responsibility for all household duties and supporting him as shown in the videos she watched. Rachel, feeling the gravity of the situation, agreed to give it a try despite her inner doubts. The rest of the day passed in a blur of dusting and vacuuming, of Mark's expectant glances and Rachel's growing frustration. She had never felt so out of place in her own home, so misunderstood by the man she had shared her life with for 15 years. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows grew long, Rachel found a strange sort of comfort in the rhythm of her new role. That evening, as they sat down to dinner, Rachel felt a tentative sense of pride. The table was set with their best china, a roast chicken graced the center, and the scent of apple pie filled the air. Mark looked at her, his expression a mix of surprise and something else she couldn't quite read. "Thank you," he said, his voice gruff. Rachel felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to navigate this new chapter together. But as she served him a slice of pie, she couldn't help but wonder if the taste of sweet nostalgia was worth the bitter aftertaste of resentment that lingered just beneath the surface. Days turned into weeks, and Rachel threw herself into her new role with a fervor she hadn't felt in years. She woke up early, made Mark's breakfast, and had his lunch packed and ready by the time he left for work. The house was spotless, a testament to her endless hours of cleaning and organizing. Yet, as she looked around the gleaming kitchen, Rachel felt a hollowness in her chest. This wasn't what she had dreamt of when she'd fantasized about being a stay-at-home wife. The glamour had faded, leaving behind only the grind of domesticity. Mark noticed the change in Rachel, her eyes no longer sparkling with excitement but with the dull embers of exhaustion. He knew he'd pushed her hard, perhaps too hard. Yet, every time he tried to broach the subject, she would wave him off, insisting she was happy. It was a lie they both knew, but it was easier to let it stand than to face the truth. One evening, as Rachel soaked in a bubble bath, Mark brought her a glass of wine and a tray of cheese and crackers. "You've been working hard," he said, his voice softer now. Rachel looked up at him, the candlelight casting a warm glow across his features. "Maybe too hard." The silence grew thick as Rachel took a sip of her wine, the taste suddenly bitter on her tongue. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice a fragile thread. "I mean," Mark began, sitting on the edge of the tub, "that I don't want you to hate me for this. I know you're doing all of this because you think it's what I want, but I don't. I don't want a trophy wife. I want a partner." He took a deep breath. "I want the Rachel I fell in love with." The words hung in the air, a delicate balancing act of truth and regret. Rachel felt a tear slip down her cheek, melding with the warm water. "But what if she's gone?" she whispered. "What if I don't know how to be that person anymore?" Mark took her hand, his eyes filled with a tenderness she hadn't seen in a long time. "Then we'll find her together," he said. "Because I can't lose you to this fantasy." And so, they began the slow process of rediscovering one another. Rachel started setting boundaries, and Mark helped around the house more. They talked about their fears and their hopes, the future they had painted so vividly in their youth now a canvas of uncertainty. It was a dance, delicate and awkward at first, but with each step, the rhythm grew stronger, the connection more profound. Their marriage was no longer a showcase for an idealized past, but a living, breathing entity, adapting to the ever-changing present. The house remained large, the car gleaming in the driveway, but Rachel and Mark had found something far more valuable: the willingness to grow together, to accept each other's flaws, and to love unconditionally, even when it was messy and imperfect. One evening, as Rachel was getting ready to watch her favorite YouTube channel, Mark sat beside her with curiosity in his eyes. "Can we watch one of those videos together?" he asked tentatively. Rachel paused, the remote hovering in her hand. She had never thought he'd be interested in the world that had consumed her, but she handed it over without a word. They watched in silence as the perky housewife on the screen demonstrated the art of making a perfect soufflé. Rachel felt a pang of guilt as she realized the unattainable standard she had been holding herself to. Mark, however, saw something different. "Do you know what I noticed?" he said, pausing the video. Rachel looked at him, her heart racing. "This woman, she's happy, but it's not because she's perfect. It's because she's doing what she loves." They started discussing the videos, dissecting the messages they conveyed about femininity and marriage. Rachel found herself questioning the ideals she had been chasing and the toll it was taking on her mental health. Mark, in turn, began to see the allure of the simplicity the videos offered, the promise of a life free from the rat race. Together, they began to explore the nuances of gender roles, the expectations that society had placed upon them, and how those expectations had shaped their desires and their relationship. They laughed at the absurdity of it all, the pressure to conform to an image that was as outdated as it was unrealistic. Slowly, Rachel's obsession with the traditional wife lifestyle began to wane. She started to seek out new hobbies and interests that didn't revolve around pleasing Mark. Mark, too, found himself questioning the long hours he put into work, realizing that the house and the cars and the holidays weren't worth sacrificing their happiness. They both understood that their roles in the relationship didn't define their worth. Rachel's job didn't make her less of a wife, and Mark's role as the sole breadwinner didn't make him less of a partner. Their newfound openness led to a more equitable distribution of responsibilities. Rachel took on more of the finances, which she found oddly satisfying, and Mark learned to cook, finding joy in the creation of a meal that didn't just end with a microwave beep. They continued to challenge each other, to push beyond their comfort zones, and in doing so, they discovered facets of themselves they had long ignored. Their love grew stronger as they tore down the walls of their preconceived notions about marriage. Rachel no longer felt the need to be a living, breathing Pinterest board, and Mark felt a burden lifted knowing Rachel was happy to contribute in her own way. They had found a balance that was uniquely theirs, a dance that didn't require a script or a costume, just two souls willing to learn and evolve together. Their journey was far from over, but they had turned a corner. The house, once a prison of expectation, now held the warmth of a home where two people were learning to love without boundaries. The car, once a symbol of Rachel's perceived inadequacy, was now just a means to an end, a way to get to their date nights and weekend adventures. And the videos, while still a guilty pleasure for Rachel, had become a reminder of the conversations they'd had, the growth they'd shared, and the future they were building together. The story of Rachel and Mark didn't end with a fairy tale embrace or a grand declaration of love. Instead, it was a quiet, unassuming moment in their bedroom, surrounded by the trappings of a life they had built. They lay there, their hearts beating in sync, as they whispered the truths they had learned. It was a moment that spoke louder than any grand gesture could, a promise to continue the dance of love and growth, no matter how awkward the steps may seem. A chance encounter with a charismatic neighbor, a woman named Evelyn, would soon throw a wrench into their carefully constructed world. Rachel first met her while out walking their golden retriever, Max. Evelyn's vibrant laughter had caught her attention, and before Rachel knew it, she found herself drawn into conversation. They talked about everything from gardening to their careers, and Rachel felt a kinship she hadn't experienced in a long time. As the days grew longer and the nights warmer, Rachel found herself looking forward to these impromptu meetings. Evelyn was a successful entrepreneur, her house a testament to her creativity and drive. Rachel was in awe of the life she had built for herself, free from the constraints of traditional marriage. Her confidence was infectious, and Rachel found herself questioning the very foundation of her own existence. One evening, as Rachel was preparing dinner, Mark walked in from a long day at the construction site, his face etched with the lines of fatigue. Rachel looked up and saw him in a new light, the man she had chosen to spend her life with, not just a role she had cast him in. She realized that she had been living in a cocoon of her own making, stifling not only her own dreams but his as well. The friendship with Evelyn had ignited a spark in Rachel, one that grew into a flame of curiosity and desire for something more. She began to see the cracks in their marriage not as flaws, but as opportunities for growth. Mark noticed the change in her, the light in her eyes that had been missing for so long. And so, they started to talk. The conversations were raw and real, each one peeling back layers of misunderstanding and resentment. Rachel confessed her fear of losing herself in the shadows of a traditional wife, and Mark revealed his own insecurities about providing for a family that no longer needed him in the same way. They spoke of their aspirations, the things they had put on hold for the sake of their marriage and their home. Their talks grew longer, more intense, as they grappled with the question of what it truly meant to be partners in a modern world. They discussed the possibility of Rachel returning to work, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. They talked about the joy of cooking and cleaning together, of sharing responsibilities without the weight of expectation. Their friendship with Evelyn grew stronger, and Rachel and Mark found themselves inviting her over for dinner, sharing stories of their own personal journeys. They laughed and learned from her tales of navigating a world that didn't always align with societal norms. Her courage and authenticity became a beacon for them both, a reminder that love could be fluid, adaptable, and most importantly, a choice. And so, Rachel and Mark faced the challenge of renegotiating the terms of their marriage. It was a delicate dance of give and take, of learning to communicate beyond the script that had been handed to them. They agreed to support each other's dreams, to be equals in every sense of the word. Rachel would return to work part-time, pursuing her own career aspirations, while Mark took on more responsibilities at home. Their marriage evolved, becoming something more than either of them had ever imagined. It was a partnership that didn't just survive the storm of doubt and change but was strengthened by it. Rachel found fulfillment in her work again, her mind alight with new ideas and challenges. Mark discovered a passion for cooking, the kitchen now a place of connection rather than a battleground. Together, they explored a world beyond the narrow confines of traditional gender roles, finding joy in the unexpected. They took turns making each other's lunches, painted the walls of their home with the colors of their shared dreams, and made love with a newfound sense of freedom and respect. The house was no longer a showpiece but a sanctuary, a place where two souls could be themselves, without judgment or pretense. Their secret friendship with Evelyn had become a catalyst for change, a reminder that love is an ever-evolving journey, not a destination. Rachel and Mark had found the courage to push beyond the boundaries that had been set for them, discovering that true happiness lies in the freedom to be who they really are. And as they lay in bed at night, their hearts beating as one, they knew that their love story was far from over. One evening, Rachel approached Mark with a tentative smile, a spark of excitement in her eyes. Remember how you said you'd support me in pursuing my own career? She asked. Mark nodded, his heart racing at the sudden shift in her tone. Well, Rachel continued, I've been thinking. I found a part-time position in a local design firm. It's not much, but it's a start. Mark felt a surge of pride for his wife, for the woman who had found the strength to break free from the cocoon of expectations. He took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. If it's what you want, Rach, I'm all for it. We're in this together. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, a mix of relief and joy. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for understanding. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of change. Rachel dove into her new job with the same passion she had once reserved for her role as a homemaker. She came home with tales of colleagues and clients, her face alight with the thrill of new challenges. Mark, in turn, discovered a surprising talent for cooking, creating meals that were both delicious and beautiful, a testament to his love and the newfound balance in their lives. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Rachel struggled with the guilt of leaving Mark to handle more of the household chores, while Mark grappled with his own fears of inadequacy as a man in a world where traditional roles still held sway. Yet, with each hurdle, they found themselves growing closer, learning to communicate and support each other in ways they never had before. The tension in their marriage had transformed into a bond that was unbreakable. Rachel no longer felt the need to hide her aspirations behind a facade of domestic bliss, and Mark had found a newfound appreciation for the woman who had chosen him all those years ago. They had become partners in every sense of the word, two souls dancing together to the rhythm of their shared ambition. And as they stood in their kitchen, Rachel in her office clothes and Mark in his work gear, sharing a kiss before their days began, they knew that their marriage was no longer a performance but a living, breathing testament to their love. The house was still large, the car still gleaming, but the true wealth of their lives lay in the moments of authentic connection, the laughter that filled their home, and the quiet understanding that grew stronger with each passing day. Their story was no longer one of a man and a woman trapped by societal norms, but of two individuals, hand in hand, navigating the ever-changing landscape of life, together. Rachel and Mark had found the courage to tear down the walls of their traditional marriage and build something new in its place, a love that was as modern as it was timeless, as beautiful as it was raw. Their journey was far from over, but with each step they took towards personal fulfillment, they grew stronger as a couple. Rachel's career blossomed, and Mark's culinary skills became the talk of the neighborhood. They had learned that love isn't about filling roles, but about filling hearts. And as they watched the sun set over their garden, a glass of wine in hand, they knew that the future held endless possibilities, as long as they faced them together. But the whispers of doubt didn't disappear entirely. Rachel's newfound independence sometimes left Mark feeling redundant, while Rachel grappled with the guilt of enjoying her time away from home. Yet, in the warmth of their embraces, the passion of their debates, and the quiet moments of shared joy, they found reassurance. They had built something real, something that could withstand the storms of doubt and the siren call of the familiar. Evelyn remained a constant presence in their lives, a reminder of the choices they had made and the paths they had forged. Her success was a beacon that shone brightly, illuminating the potential that lay before them. Rachel often found herself turning to her for advice, while Mark admired her unabashed pursuit of happiness. Their friendship grew, a testament to the power of shared experiences and mutual respect. One day, as Rachel was leaving for work, Mark handed her a small bouquet of flowers he'd picked from their garden. "Thank you," Rachel said, her eyes misting up. "For what?" Mark asked, puzzled. Rachel took a deep breath. "For letting me be me," she replied, placing a soft kiss on his cheek. It was in moments like these that Mark understood the gravity of their transformation. They had chosen to walk a road less traveled, and it had led them to a place of profound love and acceptance. Their marriage was no longer a fortress of expectation, but a garden of growth, where they tended to each other's dreams with gentle care. Rachel and Mark had become advocates for their own happiness, refusing to be defined by the roles they once thought were their destiny. The house, the car, the material trappings of their lives had become secondary to the richness of their partnership, a bond that had weathered the storms of change and emerged stronger for it. Their evenings grew longer, filled with shared projects and late-night heart-to-hearts. They laughed as they painted the kitchen in bold strokes of color, the walls echoing with the sound of their joy. And as they sat side by side, Rachel scrolling through her work emails and Mark chopping vegetables for dinner, they felt a sense of unity that transcended the confines of their traditional roles. Their relationship had become a dance, a beautiful, messy dance of give and take, of love and respect. They had learned that marriage wasn't about fitting into a mold, but about creating a space where two people could grow together, unencumbered by the weight of the past. Rachel and Mark had discovered that true partnership meant supporting each other's aspirations, holding each other up when the world threatened to pull them apart. And so, they continued to evolve, their hearts forever entwined, as they charted their course into the uncharted waters of modern love. The traditional wife black hole had been a dark pit, but together, they had climbed out, hand in hand, into the light of a love that was theirs alone. They had learned that in embracing change, in challenging the status quo, they could build a life that was not only functional but truly beautiful. But life, as it often does, had a surprise in store for them. One morning, Rachel woke with a nauseous feeling, a hint of something she hadn't felt in years. A pregnancy test confirmed what she had feared and hoped for in equal measure. The news of an unexpected pregnancy sent shockwaves through their meticulously constructed world. Rachel's career was just taking off, and Mark was finally finding joy in his role as a more hands-on partner. Their excitement was tinged with anxiety as they sat in their now cluttered kitchen, the reality of their situation sinking in. Rachel looked at Mark, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. "What does this mean for us?" she whispered. Mark took her hand, his own heart racing. "It means we're going to be parents," he said, his voice steady, "and we're going to do it our way." But the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. Rachel's job was demanding, and Mark was still navigating his newfound love for cooking and homemaking. They had worked so hard to achieve balance, and now the scales had tipped once again. The question of who would take on the role of primary caregiver loomed large, casting a shadow over their otherwise sunlit life. Rachel felt the pull of her career, the ambition that had been reawakened by her recent success. Mark, on the other hand, was torn between his desire to support Rachel and his newfound fear of being seen as less of a man if he became the stay-at-home parent. Their conversations grew heated, the tension palpable as they discussed the future. Rachel's guilt at the thought of abandoning her job, Mark's fear of being financially dependent, and their shared anxiety about the monumental responsibility of raising a child in a society that still clung to outdated gender roles. Yet, amidst the chaos, they found moments of profound connection, their love acting as a beacon guiding them through the storm. They decided to sit down, to truly listen to each other's hopes and fears. Rachel spoke of her worries about losing herself in the role of a mother, while Mark confessed his fear of being seen as weak if he put his career aside. They agreed to continue sharing responsibilities, to support Rachel's career aspirations while finding a way to make space for the baby. They knew that their journey would not be easy, that societal expectations would continue to press against them like a relentless tide. But Rachel and Mark had faced challenges before, and together, they were ready to redefine what it meant to be a modern family. Their love story grew another chapter, one filled with the excitement of a new life and the challenge of redefining their roles. They knew that the road ahead would be bumpy, that they would stumble and fall, but they also knew that they would rise again, stronger and more in love than ever. For Rachel and Mark, the arrival of their child was not just the creation of a new life, but a testament to their commitment to each other and their shared vision of equality. As Rachel's belly grew, so too did their love for each other. They learned to balance the demands of work and family, to cherish the moments of quiet intimacy amidst the chaos of preparation. They painted the nursery in a soft, gender-neutral hue, filling it with books and toys that reflected the world they hoped to build for their child, one of acceptance, freedom, and endless possibility. Their friends and family watched with a mix of skepticism and admiration. Some whispered behind their backs, questioning if their marriage could withstand such a shift in dynamics. But Rachel and Mark were unshakable, their bond a bastion of strength against the whispers of doubt. They knew that the true measure of partnership was not in adhering to outdated norms but in the willingness to face the unknown with courage and love. And when their baby finally arrived, a perfect blend of Rachel's fiery spirit and Mark's gentle strength, they held their child in their arms and looked into each other's eyes. In that moment, they realized that their dance of love had led them to a place where the only role that mattered was that of loving parents, united in the most primal and beautiful way. Their modern family was born, not out of a mold, but out of the fiery crucible of their love and determination to forge their own path. The early days of parenthood were a whirlwind, a chaotic symphony of sleepless nights and endless diaper changes. Rachel juggled her new role as a mother with the demands of her career, while Mark took on the lion's share of the household responsibilities. They stumbled, they argued, but with each step, they grew more adept at navigating the uncharted waters of their new life. The house that once felt too large now resonated with the laughter and cries of their baby, filling it with a warmth that could not be captured in any Instagram post. Their friends and family, once skeptical, watched in amazement as Rachel and Mark defied the odds, balancing career ambitions with the joy of raising a child. Rachel's colleagues marveled at her dedication to her work, while Mark's friends began to question their own beliefs about gender roles as they saw him flourish in his newfound role. The whispers of doubt had been replaced by whispers of admiration, the naysayers silenced by the power of their love and the beauty of their partnership. But as their child grew, so too did the challenges they faced. Rachel's job offered her a promotion, one that would require her to travel frequently. Mark was torn between his desire to support Rachel's career and his fear of becoming the primary caregiver, a role he had grown to cherish. Yet, as they had done so many times before, they sat down together, their love a balm to the fear and doubt that threatened to overwhelm them. They talked, they listened, and they made a decision that was true to themselves and their child. Rachel would accept the promotion, and Mark would reduce his workload to be there for their little one. Their journey was not without its missteps, but with each stumble, they grew more in sync, more attuned to the rhythm of their shared life. Rachel's career flourished, her success a testament to the support she received from Mark. Mark, in turn, discovered the profound joy in being a present parent, his days filled with the simple pleasures of watching their child grow. And as they tucked their baby into bed each night, Rachel and Mark knew that their love had not only survived the storm but had grown stronger, a beacon of hope and inspiration to those who dared to question the status quo. Their modern love story became the stuff of legend in their social circle, a tale of two souls who had refused to be bound by the shackles of tradition. They had faced the challenges of an unexpected pregnancy and emerged stronger, their love a living, breathing entity that continued to evolve with each new chapter of their lives. Rachel and Mark had redefined what it meant to be partners, to be a family, and in doing so, they had created a legacy that would resonate for generations to come. Their child grew up in a home where gender roles were fluid, where love and respect were the cornerstones of their existence. They watched as Rachel and Mark danced through life, each one stepping back to allow the other to shine, each one lifting the other when the burdens grew too heavy. And as they grew older, Rachel and Mark's love remained a constant, a beacon that guided them through the inevitable storms of life. Their marriage had become a tapestry, woven with threads of compromise, growth, and unconditional love. The house, once a symbol of Rachel's escape into the traditional wife black hole, had become a sanctuary of shared dreams and aspirations. And as they stood on the precipice of their child's independence, Rachel and Mark looked back on the path they had forged and knew that their love had not only survived the test of time but had thrived in the face of change. Their story was a testament to the power of choice, to the courage it takes to break free from societal constraints. Rachel and Mark had shown that love could be redefined, that marriage could be a partnership of equals, and that a family could be built on a foundation of love, respect, and mutual support. They had created a legacy that was not just their own, but one that resonated with every couple who dared to dream of a better, more equitable future. And as the sun set on their lives, Rachel and Mark sat in their garden, their child now an adult standing tall beside them. They looked into each other's eyes, the lines etched by time a map of their journey together. Rachel had continued to climb the corporate ladder, her career a shining example of success. Mark had become a renowned chef, his culinary skills not only nurturing their family but also a thriving business. Their modern love story had become a source of inspiration for their child, who had grown up with the understanding that love knew no bounds, that gender was but a construct, and that partnership meant supporting each other's dreams. They watched as their offspring embarked on their own path, free from the shackles of expectation, ready to conquer the world with the same courage and determination they had seen in their parents. Their marriage had become a testament to the possibility of growth and change. Rachel had learned to balance her career with motherhood, her strength and resilience a reflection of Mark's unwavering support. Mark had discovered that being a stay-at-home father did not diminish his masculinity but instead, enriched his life with a depth of experience he never knew possible. They had both grown, not just as individuals but as a unit, their bond a tapestry of shared experiences and mutual respect. The whispers of doubt that had once filled their lives had long been silenced by the symphony of their shared successes. Rachel's career had soared, her influence reaching far beyond the confines of their small town. Mark's restaurant had become a local hotspot, his name synonymous with love and nourishment. And through it all, their partnership had remained steadfast, a dance of give and take that had weathered the storms of life. The house that had once been too large, a symbol of Rachel's desperate grasp at a life she thought she needed, had become a bastion of love, a place where their child had grown into a person of substance. The walls that had once echoed with the emptiness of societal pressure now resonated with the laughter of a family that had redefined the very essence of marriage. Their journey was not without scars, but those scars had become badges of honor, reminders of the battles they had fought together. Rachel and Mark had learned that love was not about fitting into roles but about creating a life that celebrated their shared humanity. They had taught their child that the only true measure of success was the happiness found in the warmth of a loving embrace, in the quiet moments of shared joy, and in the knowledge that together, they could face any challenge that life threw their way. As the stars twinkled above them, Rachel and Mark held hands, their hearts beating in sync. They had built a life that was uniquely theirs, a dance that had transcended the confines of tradition. And as they watched their child step into the world, They knew that the legacy they had created was not one of material wealth but of a love so fierce and so unshakable that it had the power to reshape the very fabric of society. Their story had become a beacon of hope for those who dared to challenge the status quo. They had shown that love could be redefined, that marriage could evolve, and that a family could be built on a foundation of equality and respect. Rachel and Mark had not just survived the storms of life, they had thrived, their partnership a living, breathing testament to the enduring power of love in the face of adversity. And as they grew old together, Rachel and Mark knew that the dance they had shared would never truly end. It would live on in the hearts of their child, in the lives they had touched, and in the countless couples who had found the courage to walk their own path, to build their own modern love story. The house, the career, the car, these were all just trappings. What truly mattered was the love that had grown between them. A love that had been tested and had emerged, stronger than ever, a shining example of what it truly meant to be a modern family.